All parents know that consequences are important. How do you come up with those consequences? I get this question all the time, and I'm going to walk you through it today. This one is a really common question that I get from parents, especially who are trying to come up with some good consequences. So how do we do it? You've heard before that natural and logical consequences are the way to go. I'm a big fan of natural and logical consequences. Usually those happen without our intervention. In other words, they are the consequences that our kids are going to have whether or not we do anything. This puts us in position as a parent to simply get out of the way. Don't interfere with the natural and logical consequences that are going to happen anyway. For example, you might have a child who forgets to take in his homework. Do you need to do something as a consequence for that? Probably not, because if he didn't take in his homework, he's probably going to get a bad grade. Well, parents sometimes don't want their kids to get bad grades, and so they jump in and intervene with that natural and logical consequence. One of the things we can do that's really effective as a parent is to simply get out of the way and stop interfering with the natural and logical consequences that our children are going to get. Obviously, some of the natural and logical consequences are A, way too expensive for us to tolerate as a parent, or B, too far in the future to have a real powerful learning effect on our kids. So we get to come up with consequences for our children in order to create learning opportunities for them. As we create these consequences, it's really important to notice that there are two kinds of consequences. There's probably more than two, but these two are the most important. The kind that require cooperation and the kind that don't require cooperation. Why is that important? Because moral development models tell us that children, as they progress through their moral development, start at a place where they're very selfish and self-centered. It's all very demanding or manipulative because they want to get what they want, regardless of how that impacts other people. They're not willing to cooperate at that stage of development. For a quick example, just think about a baby, a little infant. You ask an infant, 3 months old, to cooperate with you about sleeping through the night because mom could really use her sleep. That child is not old enough or mature enough to actually cooperate. And it's not that they're being bad, it's simply what infants are like. So we accept that. But a 17-year-old should be at a point where they would cooperate with us, but they don't always. That's why it's about stage, not age. Whether they're an infant or a 17-year-old is not as important as what stage of development are they in. And at those early stages, kids don't cooperate. At a more advanced stage, stage 2, I divide it into 3. And if you want a more complete overview of that model, just go to the video called Teaching Kids Responsibility here on the channel. Cue that one up next and then you can see what I'm talking about. The short version is, if you think of it as 3 distinct stages, and in stage 1, they're not cooperating. They're just all about selfish manipulation. Stage 2, they stop fighting and start cooperating. That's why we have to have 2 kinds of consequences. The kind that don't require cooperation for the stage 1 kids, and the kind that do require cooperation for those kids who are on stage 2 or higher. A lot of the parents that I talk to are trying to rack their brain and get creative about what kinds of consequences they can use with their kids. That's not the most important consideration. Let's just divide the categories into does not require cooperation and does require cooperation. Those are our 2 lists. We're going to create 2 lists. So let me help you a little bit with that first list. The kind of consequences that don't require cooperation have to come down to, what do you as a parent control? What can you enforce 100%, whether or not your kids are on board with it? So pull out a piece of paper or get out your device and let's make a list right now of things that you control, because that's going to be on this important list. I have to do a disclaimer here because there's 5 freebies. The freebies are the things that you have to provide to your kids by law and by every moral standard that I can think about. You have to provide these 5 things to your kids. We're not going to mess with them. Here they are. In order of importance: love. What's your job as a parent? To love them no matter what and even if. That's number 1. Number 2, air. I know you don't provide air to your kids, but you have no business depriving them of it, so it's on the freebies list. 3rd, water. You have to provide it. 4th, food. And notice I didn't say preferred food. I just mean sustenance. You provide something that keeps the belly button away from the backbone. And finally, shelter, which means that you protect them from the elements. And in most societies and cultures, that includes appropriate clothing. Notice I didn't say preferred clothing. Everything else is fair game. So when we make our list, let's get you started. What do you control? What can you enforce 100%? What you provide. Put it on your list. And let's talk about what you provide. In addition to the freebies, you provide access. Put it on the list. I seriously want you to make a physical list, because this is what you can go back to when you're wondering, what kind of consequences can I come up with? These are the ones. Access. Access to what? Access to space. Access to goodies. Access to electricity. Access to devices. Do you see where we're going? You provide access to all these things, and none of them are on the freebies list, are they? What else do you provide? You provide services, taxi services, cook services, laundry services. List some services that you provide. And most of those aren't on the freebies list, are they? What else do you provide? Telecommunications. Especially for teenagers, this is a big deal. They love to have their devices, and they love to have those devices connected to the internet service that you are providing. It's not on the freebies list. You provide transportation. Well, that's pretty useful, especially if your kids want to go somewhere. You provide utilities. This was a big eye-opener to me when I realized, wait a minute, I'm buying the electricity in this house, and there's a special box right over there on the wall that I can open up and turn it on or turn it off to any particular area of my house, including the areas where my kids reside. You provide permission. A lot of parents don't realize the power of this particular item on the list. When our kids want to do something, they also want to do it with our permission. I remember my son asking me once, "Dad, can I go to this party?" And I asked my fatherly question, tell me more about the party. He hadn't given me much information. He told me more. I felt uncomfortable with him going. "So can I go, Dad?" "Son, it's up to you, but I'm not giving you my permission. So if you go, you're going without my permission." "So can I go or not?" "I already said, it's up to you. But if you go, you're going without my permission." My son didn't want to go without my permission. He knew that that would result in consequences that he didn't want to have. So he made a pretty good choice and chose not to go. Permission, powerful thing that you provide. I hope that gets you thinking about the power of this particular list. Now remember, we're doing 2 lists. When we're making a list of consequences that do not require cooperation, All I want you to think about is, what do I control? What can I enforce 100%? And hopefully I got that going for you a little bit. So flesh out the list a little bit. Talk to your parenting team. If you've got another parent that's on the team with you, or a consultant or a coach that you can talk to, let's get that list completed, because you want to have a nice list over here of things you control. Now, a little word about natural and logical. It's awesome if you can tie the consequence to the behavior logically. That's awesome. Congratulations. I'm really proud of you. Is it necessary? No. No, do not let that tie your hands. As long as you control it, it can be on that list, and we'll totally fabricate some consequences in the interest of teaching our children something that helps them to have a more happy, joyful experience. You with me? Awesome. Now let's go over to the other list. The list that does require cooperation. I'm going to give you a few examples, but we're not going to spend as much time on this one. Why? Because if our kids move from stage 1, where they are defiant and selfish and manipulative and demanding, over to stage 2, where they stop fighting and start cooperating, we can use their input over here. So we're going to move to more of a collaborative approach. You might even choose to have your kids come up with some ideas of consequences in stage 2. And you can ask them by saying, well, honey, what do you think should happen when this particular rule is broken? And then zip it for a minute and see what they come up with. In my experience, kids come up with some kind of brilliant things if we incorporate their input. So we don't have to be as conscientious about this list. Some of it we'll come up with in collaboration with our kids. But it's things that require cooperation. And I like to, for stage 2 consequences, I like to focus on learning. So if I can encourage them to glean important information or learning from their experience, that's going to make a really great response over here at stage 2. So an essay, for example, a short little essay about a principle. I also like what I call responsibility packets, and that's where I have them do a written response to a few basic questions. What did I do that violated a rule or expectation or principle? Who did it affect or hurt? And what is my commitment moving forward? So this could be a short written paragraph that answers those 3 questions. Great consequence for stage 2. You're not going to use that for someone who's on stage 1. Why? Because they're not cooperating with you. Remember, stage 1 is all about what do I control and what can I enforce. So in generating these consequences, remember, 2 lists. A list of consequences that I control 100%, and another list that can be very fluid and open to input from the kids about consequences that require cooperation. And then all we have to do is determine which stage is our kid on. 1, I'm going with this list. 2, I'm going with that list. And if they're willing to go 2, go with them. Don't insist on these consequences when you can move with them to stage 2. That's less work for you, and it gives them more control. This whole parenting thing can be very challenging. We've got your back. Come over to drpauljenkins.com, drpauljenkins.com. We've created a community of conscious, connected parents like you, and there are resources there that can help you with exactly what we've talked about on this and other videos on the channel. I'll look forward to seeing you there.